On the agenda tonight, we're going to be comparing the isolated vocals of Freddie Mercury and Michael Bublé to get an appreciation of seeing the difference between not using auto-tune and using auto-tune. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, I might be setting the bar high with tonight's video, but I'm going to attempt to show everybody visually the difference between using auto-tune and not using auto-tune so that you will hopefully be able to see the difference yourselves. When you've been working with music a lot, especially if you're a producer, you start to be able to hear the difference between something that's been auto-tuned and something that hasn't. And it really does stand out like a sore thumb. And the reason that I'm doing tonight's video is because somebody, first of all, asked me in the comments section, can you settle a debate that me and my mates have been having for a very long time about Michael Bublé, whether he uses auto-tune or not on his records. The other reason is that recently I did a video on Adele, and Adele doesn't use auto-tune, and I mentioned in that video about how all of the imperfections in the voice and not quite hitting notes dead on gives the humanity to the voice, and it gives you that vulnerability in the voice. When you're listening to something, you can pick up on that. It's something that you will intrinsically pick up on subconsciously. You might not even be aware of it. But I wanted to attempt to show you guys the difference between the two, because somebody said, when I was talking about auto-tune, they said in the comments about me saying that somebody was auto-tuned is an opinion and it's not a fact. But this video is going to indicate to you guys what I can hear and why it's not an opinion, that you can hear when somebody's auto-tuned because of just the way it sounds. And your ears, when you become very sensitive to pitch and sound, you know when a note has been forcibly squeezed into a particular set of parameters to be perfectly on the note, because great singers don't hit the note exactly, and that's why it sounds weird. So as soon as you hear auto-tune, any good producer will be able to tell you straight away if something's been auto-tuned or not. So my objective for this video is for you guys to be able to see auto-tune. The other side of this is that I'm hoping the copyrights are going to be okay, because we are taking two isolated voices, Freddie Mercury and Michael Bublé, and both of them are owned by the record companies. So I'm really hoping it doesn't get blocked, because all we're doing is analysing the voices. I'm not trying to make it free to listen to their music on this channel. This is what we do on the channel. We do analyse, but fingers crossed it will get through. So I'm going to split the screen in half as I normally do, but what we're going to be having a look at is Freddie Mercury's voice on the left hand side and Michael Bublé's voice on the right hand side. And Michael Bublé's is slightly bigger, just to differentiate between the two. And there's really going to be no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just literally going to let one of their voices play and then point out the waves, what's happening with the pitch. But we'll start off with Freddie Mercury, and we're going to be listening to Somebody to Love, just the isolated vocal.
If I find me somebody to love,
I'm just going to stop it there straight away, just to see if my arrow is working, and it is. You can see already, well, we've got nothing to compare it with, but look out for how erratic these lines are. That was just one note that Freddie hit, but you can see how it descends almost through two notes. By the way, on the left-hand side, D4, C4, these are the notes, and you can follow the lines across, because anything on that line is perfect pitch. It is right on the line. And as you can see, Freddie isn't hitting notes dead on here. There's even a slight decline, but let me just play it again.
finally somebody to love.
Again, look out for here. We've got the F4 that's being sung. F4 is this line up here, and Freddie's voice is almost between the two notes. We can see how these yellow lines, the two notes that he sang, are just sitting in between the lines. Let's continue. So, jumping into that vocal phrase, the reason that I've chosen Freddie Mercury as a vocalist to compare to is because he was one of those artists who was renowned for hitting pitches, for being so accurate with his voice. And a great example of that here, when he goes up into that head voice at the top here, we've got this F5, which you can see is pretty much on the line. It does ascend and then descend, and then it again ascends at the end. But then we have another little run down, and his voice again is descending through the note that he's singing. So let's listen to it a little bit more.
Find me somebody. Ooh, can anybody find me?
And again, look how close he is to that line. And then a little bit up and down. Another thing about Freddie's vibrato is that it was inconsistent. But this is why when you listen to a guy like Freddie Mercury sing, especially with an isolated vocal like this, you get an appreciation of how unique his vocal was because of the vibrato being inconsistent. Anyway, that is Freddie Mercury. I could listen to this all day, just going through the whole song. I've just taken little sections of it. So what we're going to do now is listen to Michael Bublé's voice and try and compare some of the waveforms going on.
Well, I would send them, but I know that it's just not enough. My work.
First thing to look out for here is how, with this first vocal phrase, we've gone up and we've touched exactly on the line of an E4. We've come down, and the D4, again, is being hit pretty regularly. The C4, bang on, the C4, I mean, that's even more accurate than Freddie Mercury could hit a note. That is dead on the line. With a little rundown, we are dead on. This is something to mention about Michael Bublé's vibrato. His vibrato is so even. I might play it on a little bit so we can see his vibrato.
Words were cold and flat, and you deserve more than that.
Great example there. And look at these preceding notes. Again, dead on the line. And anything that's not on the line here is Michael Bublé's breathing and his vocal fry. He does a lot of singing, especially in the verses where he gets into vocal fry. When he says, my, and it's a really soft sound. So the difference between hitting a straight note and going, my, like that, and just trying to keep it straight, that will just give you a long signal of the note, and it'll obviously be wavering around the note a little bit. But if I went, all of that, the pitch software is going to pick that up. So this is why you'll see little peaks and troughs in the waveforms that it's picking up and the pitch, because of that vocal fry that's in there. It's not a clean note like you would have on a piano where you just press the note and it starts and then it stops. But anyway, looking at this, the vibrato, you can see how even these waves are, and that really does speak to Michael's vibrato, his technique, his control, and how even it is. It's totally the opposite to Freddie Mercury's vibrato, which is a lot more random. The peaks and the troughs here, we can see they're not going up the same distance. Here, you get a tiny section that isn't there, and then he goes back into another kind of wild section there. But here with Michael Bublé, totally even, but you can see the line, the A3, is just intersecting this vibrato perfectly. So it means that the auto-tune, and Michael Bublé has had auto-tune applied to his voice on this recording. And another thing to bring up is that he might not even know that he's being auto-tuned. It might be something that is done after the fact, after he's been in and he's done his recording and then he's gone home. They've then taken his vocal and auto-tuned it. And I don't know why they do this, because everybody knows Michael Bublé can sing. I've heard him sing live on TV and in various events where he is definitely singing live. But for this particular song, and maybe this whole album, it's been put through auto-tune, which I don't understand why it's happened. I don't agree with it, but I'm showing you what it looks like when you've got this great vibrato, but it has been snapped to the A3, because it's perfect. That line is going right through the middle, which you wouldn't get on a totally live vocal. But let's just play it on a bit more.
Another aeroplane, another sunny place.
Again, classic auto-tune here. We've started the phrase and we're just getting perfectly on the note, but then the na 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 na, the na na na, those are being perfectly snapped on the lines of the note. So auto-tune's doing that.
I'm lucky, I know, but I wanna go home.
And look at these notes here again. Look at the lowest part of the lines precisely on an E3, which just doesn't happen. Looking over at Freddie Mercury, look at where the bottom of the line's hitting. Even on this section here, we're never really on a note perfectly, let alone having it 3 times in such quick succession. Again, just auto-tune.
I got to go home.
Good example there of that. The vocal fry there, just being picked up as a noise descending.
Let me go home.
And there it is. If you're a producer and you hear that, you know auto-tune is being used. Because, I mean, you don't even have to look at it, but that's the point of this video. I'm showing you at the top here, the E4 is just a straight line. That's like playing a piano, or more likely playing a guitar, because you can see a tiny little bit of variation, but it's dead on the note. And as we continue, again, look at that, perfectly on the line, impossible to do without auto-tune. And then he applies vibrato. Again, vibrato is just either side of the line.
I'm just...
And then right at the end, I think the auto-tune didn't pick up this last bit of the hum because it was too quiet. And this is something that you might have a noise gate on your recording as it's being recorded or after the fact. So they put on a noise gate, which means that only the noise above a particular level gets processed. So I think here, the auto-tune has either been left off because of that, or it's been left off intentionally because the hum didn't sound natural. It just sounded like a machine doing it. So let's continue.
Far from where you are. Oh.
Again, look at these, just perfect runs down. It's just impossible to do naturally.
Wanna come home.
And then that's going to be the end of that particular vocal phrase. I think then in the song it must go into something instrumentally. But hopefully you guys can see the difference. We're going to go back to Freddie Mercury now and see some of the vocal going on there. Hopefully it's not going to be an instrumental section.
Somebody to...
And look at that. On that final note that Freddie sang, we're looking at this ascension. Look at the way we start a lot lower than where we end up. But again, in the song, this is the original vocal from the song. You don't notice this when you're listening to the original recording because it's a human singing. We just take this information in as not pitches being hit perfectly, but the emotion of the vocal that's being put across by Freddie in this case. And this is why when this person commented and said that they're having a discussion amongst their friends whether Michael Bublé used it or not, some people might be able to hear auto-tune in some percentage or at some level. They might get an inkling that, hang on, that doesn't sound like other singers that I like. Why is that? But hopefully now with this, you guys will be able to see when something's being auto-tuned. And I'll give more examples a little bit later, but great example here. Also that previous phrase going up to the, I mean, we've got the D5 here, so then we'll be going up to the E5. I don't think it shows you the D sharps, so we'll be just going up to the, actually that might be the D sharp there, but oh yeah, they do show you it, but they don't actually mark it as a note. So that's something to take into consideration, that the D sharp, as we move up, we're getting closer to that with that final vocal phrase. But you can also see here that the B, just above the B, he's trying to hit that C there, the C5. When I say he's trying to hit it, he's just singing. But you can see how he's not quite reached it the first time and just touches it the second time, but is by no means just on that line the whole time. Let's continue. Great example there. Again, I mean, Freddie was just bang on pitch-wise in musical terms, not talking about auto-tune. Look at the rundown. He's pretty much there, dead on, and comes down pretty much. He's a little bit low, but just touches the underside of the note. He's then in between notes. As he keeps on coming down, we can't see the lowest note, unfortunately, but then he stops almost on the note and then just touches the note. So this is the thing that's a bit more random when you're looking at somebody sing without auto-tune.
Find me somebody to love.
Listen to that vibrato. So unique. And when you listen to Michael Bublé, and he has that kind of, or I'll keep it relevant to the pitch of what we just heard, but that and there's a definite consistency to it. Whereas with Freddie Mercury, he kind of has a and there's lots of waves in there. So good luck trying to recreate that, because it is so unique. But again, look at this, the way that we've got these notes that are in between, and they just kind of touch the line but don't stay there. And then this wild vibrato going on as well.
Somebody, 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 somebody to love.
And again, look at the descending nature of that last note. But let's go over to Michael again. I'm going to just rewind it a little bit so that we get a little bit of his vocal. Let me just put it there and we'll see what he's singing here.
Million people, I still feel all alone. Just wanna go home.
Again, look here, perfectly on the line. Then applies vibrato either side of the line. Then again, vibrato either side of the line.
Oh, I miss you, you know.
Again, vibrato on the line, either side of the line.
And I've been keeping all the letters.
Again, here, on the line, down, on the line, down, vibrato either side of the line.
That I wrote to you. Each one a line or two. I'm fine, baby, how are you?
And you can see it's picking up quite a lot of his breathing, which I didn't expect it to do. But when the notes do come in and he connects those vocal cords, you can see on the line. And as we progress, again on the line, vibrato. Let me just take that back and see if that was vibrato.
Baby, how are you?
Oh, it's the breath. So this first part, either side of the line, and then the breath descends. So that's just it not being able to pick up a note because there wasn't a distinct note being sung.
Well, I would send them, but I know that it's
Again, look at that, dead on.
just not enough.
And, I mean, this is all breathing here, but the not enough, we can see that he's getting straight onto these lines. Again here, not, no. It's going perfectly between the two lines.
My words were cold and flat.
Again, look at that. Cold and flat. Just perfectly on the pitch. Anyway, I'm hoping that I've shown you enough of this so that you guys get an appreciation of what auto-tune looks like. If it's hitting notes, whenever somebody's holding a note for any length of time and it's staying on that note when you put it through pitch analyzing software, that is auto-tuned. I haven't yet found somebody's voice that has been perfectly on the note all the time and then they apply vibrato and are perfectly either side of that line. I haven't found it yet. And Freddie Mercury's a great one to start with because of being so well known for being dead on pitch. But I will keep on looking, and if there are any singers that you guys want to know, if they were auto-tuned, they've been auto-tuned, or whether they used auto-tune or not, let me know in the comments section below, and then I can do another video in the future, put it through the software, and we can get a definitive answer. by seeing whether their notes are being snapped to notes or not, or whether they are singing and are totally unprocessed and unpost-processed after they've recorded that vocal in the studio. I think when you know what you're looking for, it is quite easy to see auto-tune. Maybe being able to hear it isn't going to be as easy if you haven't been listening to vocals for a long time, especially in isolation, but I think people will start to just read between the lines of, no pun intended, of looking at all these lines, but reading between the lines of somebody singing naturally and then somebody singing with auto-tune. Thank you guys for watching this video. If there are any other singers that you would like to put through the auto-tune test to see whether they do use it or not, then stick their names in the comments section below. Let me know what you guys think. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!